coming off the fourth turn at Darlington Raceway, Labor Day 1985, to take the checkered flag and win the richest single-day prize in the history of auto racing, $1 million.
And this is the happiest victory lane perhaps of all time. Bill Elliott, the $1 million man, how does it feel?
I don't know. I think it'll settle in sometimes next week. I can't believe it.
What were you thinking on the last few laps when it came so close?
I just said keep my cool and do what I always do, and it worked out.
What are you going to do with all this money?
I have no idea. I ain't gonna worry about it.
You're obviously a very happy man.
No doubt about it.
That was the Southern 500, where Bill Elliott won a $1 million bonus for winning 3 of the 4 biggest stock car races of the year. But things are different here. This is a short track at Richmond, Virginia, and Bill Elliott brought a brand new car here. Bill, what's happened to you?
Well, we've had numerous problems. Friday, whenever we got here, bonnet blew an inch, and I ran an oil and hit the wall, and we had to do a lot to the car to get it fixed. And other than that, it's not too terribly bad.
How do you assess your chances here at Richmond?
Well, it all depends. You know, most of the short tracks comes down to survival, how much good luck you have. And, you know, here it's no different anywhere else. I feel like we was running good in the spring, you know, and had some tire problem and hit the wall, you know, evidently run over a piece of debris on the track and hit the wall. So, you know, you've got to take the good with the bad and hope it all works out. The main thing here is just stay out of trouble, keep your nose clean, try to run all day.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
The Wrangler Sanfor-Set 400 is a presentation of SETN, the Special Events Television Network. The Wrangler Sanfor-Set 400 is brought to you by Goodyear, makers of the high-performance radial tire, the Eagle, and by Alu-Guard. Look for and buy brands containing the Alu-Guard premium quality antifreeze formula. And by Exxon, quality you can count on. Richmond Fairgrounds Raceway in Richmond, Virginia. A tight, tough, flat half-mile bull ring that'll challenge NASCAR's best in today's Wrangler Sanfor-Set 400. It is hot. 95 degrees the expected temperature this afternoon. Hello everyone, I'm Mike Joy with former Grand National champion Benny Parsons. I'm breaking out in the sweat just standing here.
Oh, it is so hot, and I think that has got to be the story today, the heat.
Well, it's no hotter here than the Winston Cup point race, with Bill Elliott trying to win his first championship, Darrell Waltrip is third, and Neil Bonnet trying to become champion for the first time. We're into Junior Johnson's part of the season, the short tracks.
The short tracks, and this could turn things around. Richmond could be the one that decides the championship. If Bill Elliott gets through the day in good shape, Mike, he probably will win the championship.
But neither of Elliott's closest contenders are near the front of the field. They're way back, and we'll get to that story in a moment. But right now, Dick Berggren standing by at the front of the starting grid with the pole sitter.
It took Jeff Bodine 21 races in the 1985 season to get himself on the pole, but here he is. He is winless so far in 1985, but he's generally regarded as a short track expert. Jeff, how are you going to play your day?
Well, thank you for that fine introduction. I hope we're a short track expert today. The car's running good. We're real happy with it. We're happy to be on the pole. It's taken us a long while to get there. We just hope we can keep the Levi Garrett car up front. The crew's worked hard. We've worked hard all week. We just hope for a good, safe race.
Well, Benny, in a season where Bill Elliott has dominated on the super speedways, as we reach the stretch drive of the season, the pressure to win, I don't think on many of these teams has ever been greater.
It has never been greater. I've talked to a lot of teams down in the pit area. Bill Elliott has taken everything. He's taken all the victories, all the money, all the prestige, and if he wins the championship, 1985 was a total wipeout for everyone except Bill Elliott.
Well, Elliott hasn't won quite all the races. The man who's been to victory lane the next most often is on pit road with Dick Berggren.
The toughest driver on the short tracks in 1985 has been Dale Earnhardt. Dale, it's awfully hot out there today. How will that affect your style?
Hotter the better.
Dale Earnhardt ready to go. Here in this 400-lap event, we are ready for the Start Your Engines command.
We'll be right back to the Richmond Fairgrounds right after these messages. Sanfor-Set 400. Let's take a look at the starting lineup. 3 of the first 4 cars are Chevrolets. You've met Jeff Bodine, the pole sitter. He shares the front row with Harry Gant. Then it's Ricky Rudd's Ford and a Chevrolet for Terry Labonte.
In the 3rd and 4th row, we find 3 Buicks. The only exception, Bill Elliott's Ford, and Greg Sachs, Ron Bouchard, and Bobby Allison.
Dale Earnhardt heads off row 5 in a Chevy with Kyle Petty's Ford. Then it's Rusty Wallace's Pontiac and a Chevrolet for Bobby Hillen.
In row 7, we find Lake Speed alongside Phil Parsons' Chevrolet. In row 8, Tim Richmond's Pontiac, and then Tommy Ellis.
Jimmy Means has a Pontiac in row 9 along with Ken Schrader's Ford. Then it's Richard Petty's Pontiac and Buddy Baker's Oldsmobile.
In row 11, we find Morgan Shepherd. Alongside him, Darrell Waltrip starting way back. Then comes Neil Bonnet and Dave Marcus.
Making his first Grand National start, Alan Kulwicki in a Ford, along with Trevor Boy's Chevrolet being driven by Lenny Pond, Buddy Arrington and Clark Dwyer in Fords.
And the last row, row 15, Eddie Burchwell and J.D. McDuffie.
Well, there's a nice breeze up here, but I think we better give Harold Kinder back his starter stand.
Well, he can have it because it's air conditioning in the booth where we're going right now.
We're on the way, and we'll be back with a start in just a moment.
Good, Mike. And 95 degrees outside today, but the stands are completely jammed with race fans.
35,000 people out at the State Fairgrounds here in Richmond to watch NASCAR's finest get at it for 400 laps.
And we can see the half-mile racetrack. 95 degrees on this track is a problem because there is no place to relax, Mike. At Daytona, 2.5-mile racetrack, you can kind of relax down the straightaway. At Richmond, it's work all the way.
Short straightaways and flat turns don't give the drivers much of a break. As the light is out atop the Pontiac Trans Am safety car, and you see Jeff Bodine and Harry Gant both in Chevrolets on the front row. Inside of row 2, that red and white Ford of Ricky Rudd, alongside the blue and white Chevrolet for Terry Labonte. Bill Elliott, qualified 5th. Good qualifying run for the fellow who's known as a super speedway expert.
Boy, there is some optimism in that camp because they feel like they have the best car at Richmond they've ever had. And their short track program this year, that Coors Ford on the big tracks has been so dominant, but their short track program has left a lot to be desired.
Way back in the field are teammates Darrell Waltrip and Neil Bonnet starting 22nd and 23rd. Neither had a chance to qualify on the first day of Busch Pole qualifying, so they're starting way back and will have to try and claw their way to the front. Off the 4th turn, looking for the green flag, and it's out. We're racing at Richmond. Jeff Bodine will win the drag race down to turn number 1. Now Harry Gant is going to have to try to tuck in line quickly.
The groove is on the inside of the racetrack. Harry needs to get inside. He did not get a good start. Ricky Rudd got by him, but coming off the 2nd corner, he was able to get inside.
Phil Parsons bounced off the wall.
There's the spin. That's Greg Sachs' fun up in turn 4.
Greg Sachs, the Firecracker 400 winner, and there is Lenny Pond getting into the side of Darrell Waltrip. Morgan Shepherd takes to the infield to avoid him, and we don't get a caution. We're going to stay in the green as Sachs pulls away.
No caution flag. That's a tough break for Darrell Waltrip, Neil Bonnet. Some of the fast cars that started in the back needed an early caution flag to pass 4 or 5 cars. They did not get it.
That little bump and bang is typical of short track action. You rarely see a one-car spin on a track like this.
No, because the cars are so close together that once a car gets in trouble, someone else is always there to share the accident with him.
It's Chevrolet, Ford, 2 Chevrolets, and another Ford. As Jeff Bodine takes them off the corner, Ricky Rudd is 2nd. Here's Harry Gant on the inside, and 3rd, Terry Labonte, and Bill Elliott is the 5th place car. Ron Bouchard has the 6th spot. He started 7th.
Harry did not get a good start, but it looks like right now that he has one of the fastest cars out there. He keeps looking inside Ricky Rudd coming off the corners like he has aspirations of passing.
8th is Bobby Allison, and Dale Earnhardt, who spoke to us briefly at the top of the show, is running in the 9th position. Front 9 have a bit of a gap on the field, maybe 3 or 4 car lengths, but in short track racing, that can be like 3 or 4 seconds on a super speedway.
You're exactly right. Just a few car lengths is a big lead at Richmond.
Everybody keeping the cars way down on the inside in the early going. Rusty Wallace has the 10th spot. Lake Speed is 11th. And neither Waltrip nor Bonnet can break away from that pack of cars in about 18th to 20th position.
Passing is so tough at Richmond, particularly in the early going when all the cars are running equal. We can see the cars there. The first 8 or 10 cars, bumper to bumper, very, very close.
Everybody is right down on the inside of the racetrack.
That is the fast way around. The people here at the Fairgrounds Raceway have put a sealer on the racetrack this summer, and they feel like that's one reason the cars are sticking much better on the inside.
A long lens off our turn 4 camera, but you can see just how short the straightaway is here and how wide those very flat turns are. A little spark from the bottom of Kyle Petty's car as he bottoms the chassis just a bit. And Neil Bonnet back in the pack, fighting for running room alongside Richard Petty. Here's a bid for second spot. Harry Gant has a look inside of Ricky Rudd, but Rudd's car is working well right on the bottom of the racetrack, as is the leader, Jeff Bodine, in car number 5.
Ricky Rudd's car runs well here. For some reason, that Ford gets around this racetrack very, very well. He won the race here last year in the same car.
Rudd is in number 15, the Bud Moore owned and prepared Motorcraft Ford Thunderbird, riding in second.
Well, Kyle Petty was getting inside Lake Speed going in turn 1 to take that position away.
And Kyle will move up a notch, up into the top 10. There's the front 8 cars. At the back of that pack, Earnhardt's beginning to ramble just a bit. There is Kyle Petty ahead of Lake Speed, and right behind Rusty Wallace in the Aluguard Pontiac. Kyle's in number 7, the 711 Ford. He's in 10th position. Lake Speed in 75 is 11th. Back up front, here's Bodine, Rudd, and Gant. They've got about 3 car lengths on Terry Labonte, the defending Winston Cup champion. In number 44, the Piedmont Airlines Chevrolet, he's the 4th place car.
And Bill Elliott is right on Terry Labonte's bumper. Exceptionally.
Oh, trouble on Harry Gant. He's pulled right off to the inside as if maybe he missed a shift or something. Car popped out of gear, but no, he'll get back in line behind Earnhardt. That will drop Gant to 8th place.
I can't imagine what happened, Mike.
He's still running. The car doesn't appear quite to be up to speed. We're back up front with the leaders, Bodine and Rudd. Now Gant was running 3rd. Labonte will take over 3rd position, but Gant's abrupt drop off the pace will give these 2 cars quite a lead. There's Labonte at the top of your screen. Bill Elliott will move up to 4th.
It's very fortunate that Harry Gant had a little bit of a lead on Terry Labonte, because when he had that problem, Labonte did not hit him in the back.
Ron Bouchard will now become the 5th place car. There's in 47. There's 22, Bobby Allison 6th. Earnhardt moves up to 7th, and Gant is holding his own in 8th position. Bodine moves up to lap the Rumpel Furniture Pontiac of J.D. McDuffie. And these cars are going to look a little rumpled by the time this day is over.
They have to, because right now they're just kind of feeling the racetrack out, feeling each other out. But it is going to get tough and physical before this day's over.
Too wide, the traffic ahead of race leader Jeff Bodine. And
Harry Gant on the inside again.
And Gant has slowed once again. Well, whatever the problem, I don't believe Travis Carter could afford to leave him out there.
No, because the car is just too slow. When he has his problem, whatever it is, the car is just too slow. Earnhardt gets the car, almost spins coming off the 4th corner.
Earnhardt's in 7th spot, car number 3. Kyle Petty is pulled right up on his back bumper. Ahead of Earnhardt in 6th, Bobby Allison. 5th, Ron Bouchard. 4th, Bill Elliott. 3rd is Labonte, and here's the front 2. Bodine in number 5 and Rudd in 15. And Gant will limp on the pit road. Car as if it's not getting fuel or not getting spark or just kind of sputtering along.
You know, Mike, it may be so hot that the car has vapor loss.
Now he's
fueled his bull.
He's pitted way at the far end of pit road. And that'll be a disadvantage in a situation like this. Leaders lapped by Eddie Bierschwal.
Harry is stalled. His car was just sitting on pit road there. I can't imagine what's wrong unless it is vapor loss. Now he's got it moving again.
And he goes past Phil Parsons' pit as they put right side tires on Bobby Hillen's car. Here's a crewman diving in, and the car catches right away.
I wonder if that crewman, I think the crewman reached in and changed the ignition. These cars run a dual ignition. and there is a little box in there that runs the ignition. I think that he reached in, unplugged one box, and plugged another one in.
Well, those black boxes work fine when they work, but they've become so occasionally unreliable that most of the teams have mounted 2 of them on the dashboard. Unfortunately, where the Skoll team puts them is out of Harry Gant's reach, so a crewman had to jump in the car and apparently switch the wire from one to the other.
It looks like that because the car certainly took off after that.
He's back up to speed, but the report from NASCAR Scoring is Harry Gant is 2 laps behind.
There's a car. That's Morgan Shepherd has hit the wall very, very hard in turn 1.
Oh, he hit it a ton. And that steel barrier is not terribly forgiving. So Shepherd coasts off around turn 2. He can still steer the car, get it up out of harm's way. And the rest of the field, I don't believe they've got the caution flag yet. They'll come around to take the caution, and it will be the first one of the day for Morgan Shepherd driving the Helen Ray Special. You'll see Shepherd at the top of your screen.
We can see the tire blowing and the car going down, and Morgan has no control over the automobile, Mike. It just goes straight ahead. There's nothing he can do except hold on and hope that he doesn't hit too hard. There the car comes off the wall and back into it again. The right front tire is completely gone. We can see that it's knocked the tire completely off the right front position.
Shepherd, a short track specialist, stand out in the late model sportsman division of NASCAR. Into the wall. He had a good qualifying run, was the fastest second-day qualifier with a speed that would have put him 9th in the field if he'd done it on the first day of qualifying.
Morgan is really, really good on a short racetrack.
Caution is out. We'll be right back. Morgan Shepherd accident, and Kyle Petty's the race leader. We're getting set to go back to green flag racing. First, let's go to the pits and Dick Bergeron.
This is what happens to a $45,000 piece of equipment when the right front tire lets go. Before the race today, this car was brand spanking new. They took it from the chassis shop right straight to the racetrack, and right now it's really torn up.
We're back under green, and Kyle Petty takes the field off turn number 4. Greg Sachs trying to get back on the lead lap and has little success doing it. Tim Richmond is there, and so is Richard Petty.
Kyle Petty yesterday afternoon crashed in practice, Mike. The last practice session for the Grand National cars, he and Dale Earnhardt got together. He crashed that car that is leading the race. So Leonard Wood and all the crew worked on it last night. This is the first time that car has been on the racetrack since he wrecked yesterday. And looks like they did a pretty good job putting it together.
Isn't it funny how sometimes you'll bend up a race car and the thing will run as good or better than it did before?
Well, you know, I was thinking...
Ooh, a little contact there. Richard Petty and Greg Sachs, excuse me.
Richard just kind of moved him up out of the way and said, come on, I need to get up to where the front. Richard Petty, we haven't seen him lead many races this year. A good-looking day for Richard Petty today.
Now, Richard's the second-place car. Here's Harry Gant trying to get one of his 2 laps back that he lost due to that ignition problem. He gets ahead of Kyle and then comes right down the racetrack and cuts him off. So Gant is now 1 lap plus all the way around the track down to Kyle Petty.
But what happens if a caution flag, a slowdown period, a caution flag should be waved and the cars slow down? Then NASCAR will put out a pace car, and that pace car will pick up the leader, which in this case is Kyle Petty. That allows Harry Gant to go all the way around the racetrack and make up a half mile on the lead car or an entire lap.
Neither Kyle nor Richard pitted during the caution flag for Morgan Shepherd, so they're at the front of the field. The drivers that led the race in the early going all made pit stops, and they are further back in line. We'll pick up positions for you as we get along here. But it's Kyle Petty looking for his first Grand National victory in car number 7. And Richard Petty in 43 looking for his 201st Grand National victory.
And yes, they are related.
Yeah.
The car in front is the son. The STP Pontiac in back is the father.
And grandfather Lee, who won a couple of Grand National championships on his own, is off playing golf.
I'm sure. Tim Richmond, I noticed, burned the right rear tire just a little bit getting off turn 4. The car looks to be a little bit loose for trying to spin out and getting off the corner.
So Harry Gant is now just 1 lap down. The 7-11 car of Kyle Petty is the race leader. And the number 43 of Richard Petty runs in the 2nd spot.
I wondered about these cars that did not pit. Kyle and Richard chose not to pit on the caution flag period when Morgan
hit the fence down in turn 1, and I wondered about the strategy, because this racetrack, Mike, you need good tires on the race car, but it looks as though that strategy is working out for them, because they seem to be able to run as fast as any cars on the racetrack right now.
Neil Bonnet has moved up into the 3rd spot. There's Bonnet in car number 12, passing Tim Richmond, who's 4th. Terry Labonte is the 5th place car.
Harry Gant really is going strong. He's passed Kyle and Richard, and is putting a few car lengths on those cars. You know, I don't think he can make up 2 laps by outrunning them, but if he can stay out there and the caution come out, he's got a chance. This day's not over for Harry Gant yet.
There's Gant in the Travis Carter prepared Burt Reynolds and Hal Needham machine, the Skoal Bandit Chevrolet. And he is moving away from Kyle and Richard Petty, but look at how the Pettys are moving away from the rest of the field as they come off turn number 2, or turn 4 rather, and down the front straightaway. That Bonnet and Labonte battle now for 3rd spot with Tim Richmond is almost a straightaway behind the 2 race leaders. They're the lead cars, Kyle's Ford and Richard's Pontiac, and way at the other end of the straightaway come Neil Bonnet, Terry Labonte, and Tim Richmond. Then it's a long way back to the 6th place car of Jeff Bodine. There's the battle for 3rd.
You saw Terry Labonte spin the right rear tire just a bit getting off turn 4. Richard Petty's car today, he looks so comfortable going around the racetrack, Mike. It looks like the car is just handling perfectly. It doesn't slip, it doesn't slide. It just looks like he's having a nice leisurely drive.
Kyle Petty's career highlights include a 2nd place finish at Dover Downs and 2nd in the Winston 500 at Talladega this year. And as Benny remarked, this car was wrecked in the last practice session yesterday in a collision with Dale Earnhardt. Let's go to Kyle Petty's pits.
Well, Leonard Wood, given how damaged your race car was yesterday afternoon in the last practice session, are you surprised to see it out in front this afternoon?
Well, it knocked a little of the wedge out of it, you know, and he called in a few minutes ago and said it did need a little bit of wedge in it. So when we get a chance, we'll adjust on it a little bit. But we are happy with the way it turned out, and it seemed to be running right well.
And Leonard Wood's comments also indicate there's still more speed to be gained from the 711 Ford.
The wedge that he talked about, Mike, is what they do to make these cars adhere through the turns. And these cars are going down the straightaway probably at 115, 20 miles an hour. And when they go into these flat corners, they've got to have something to hold the car to keep them spinning out. And the term that the racers use is wedge. Look, Richard is inside Kyle and passes him coming off turn 4.
Well, like father, like son, Richard Petty goes to the front of the field. The first time Richard Petty won a race against his father, he lost it to Appeal.
That's right. His father, Appeal, was scoring, if I'm not mistaken. And somebody said, why did you do that to Richard? And Lee said, let him win it on his own, or let him deserve to win, or something like that.
Well, he did that not but a couple of weeks later. So Richard Petty's in front. Stock Car Racing's winningest driver of all time, 200 Grand National victories. And a car very much like the number 43 that you see here now sits on display in the Smithsonian Institution in Washington for all to see.
Richard seems to be comfortable on the racetrack, but I still wonder if possibly it was a mistake not to pit.
Mike Beam, the car looks very good. It looks like days of old. You must be very pleased.
Yeah, we ran good when we got here, and he said he just messed up pump. I was hoping to start a little bit farther up front, so that took him a stay down first of the race, so I get up front. I knew we could run once we got up front.
How is he physically? Is it very hot in the car?
He said he's having a hell of a good time.
That's Mike Beam. He's Richard Petty's crew chief, and they're all having a good time in the STP pit today.
Well, you run as well as Richard is today, and that'll happen.
Yes, you can have a good time when you're running this good. There, he's up on the back of Neil Bonnet. Neil is at an unscheduled stop, and Richard is right behind him to lap him.
The last time Richard Petty ran this well on a short track was April 1981, the Virginia 500 at Martinsville, that he was out front and pulling away from the field. A car spun in front of him, and Richard stopped to avoid him. Joe Milliken plowed into the back of the STP car,
and put the rear bumper up over the axle housing and knocked Richard out for the day.
I remember, I was in that race that day, and I remember it well.
And since then, all of Richard's victories have come on the super speedways. And I think many of the 35,000 people here today are perhaps surprised to see this car out in front and pulling away. Richard Petty has the lead in the Wrangler Sanfor-Set 400. In the STP Pontiac, trying to win his 201st career Winston Cup Grand National Stock Car Race. And there you see graphic example of just how tight this track is coming off the fourth corner. Lapping past Eddie Bierschwal and about to pull up on Dave Marcus.
Richard today, Mike, is just dominating this race. He is driving away from the field, and I haven't seen Richard this dominant, as you mentioned, since 1981.
Petty about to pull up on Dave Marcus, who won a race here at Richmond Fairgrounds not too long ago. And here's Kyle Petty making his scheduled pit stop.
That fellow leaving inside the rear, that rear window on the Ford, he was adjusting the wedge that Leonard Wood was talking about a moment ago. There's a bolt that sits on top of the rear spring. He was turning that bolt to put some wedge in the car. And here's Richard in the pits. He and Kyle, these are scheduled pit stops. They did not stop on the caution flag period.
Right side tires for Richard.
No chassis adjustment.
Well, no, the way that car was working.
On Richard's car.
Mike Beam, the crew chief, first-year crew chief, and he is a comer. I really think that he has just a tremendous future in this sport. What he's been able to accomplish, and working under the shadow of stock car racing's most successful driver. They've not won a race this season, but they've been in contention. They have what right now is the fastest car in this race. And I think he's done a terrific job working over it.
So do I, and I think you're right. I think he does have a future in this sport. There's our race leader right now, Terry Labonte.
He's about to pull up and lap a fellow who has a lot of success in sportsman competition on this track, former sportsman champion Tommy Ellis. Labonte's in 44, white and blue Chevrolet, putting another lap on J.D. McDuffie. And here's Ricky Rudd, now the second place car on the left side of your screen in the Bud Moore Ford.
We haven't had a caution flag in a long, long time, Mike, and as hot as it is outside today, at the top of the show, we told you fans it was 95 degrees. It is very, very warm. Inside those race cars, it's probably 30 degrees warmer than it is outside.
Dale Inman, it looks like the left front tire on your car is pretty soft. How long's that been going on?
For about 75 laps.
How tough is that to drive a car with a flat front tire?
I don't think it's no problem to him right now unless he gets much lower, but we certainly got to keep an eye on it.
Well, Terry Labonte is another one of those competitors who really needs to get a caution flag.
Dale Inman, Labonte's crew chief, was Richard Petty's crew chief for 180 of those 200 victories. They're cousins, and it was announced here at the track yesterday that Inman would rejoin Richard as crew chief for the 1986 season.
And here Terry Labonte is lapping $1 Million Bill Elliott, who last week at Darlington won $1 million, had high hopes for today's race and started very well, ran awfully well the first few laps, but Terry Labonte right now is putting a lap on Bill.
Well, as Elliott said when he came here Friday, winning $1 million is one thing, but coming to a short track like Richmond will make you humble again in a hurry.
Let's go down to Dick Berger and Ricky Rudd's pit.
Here's Ricky Rudd's pit stop. He's in for a routine stop. Right side tires, fresh load of fuel, and the left side tires on Rudd's car, as is the case with many of the competitors here, show evidence of contact. This is definitely a contact speedway.
Well, it's a contact sport. When you go around a half-mile track like this and average 90 miles an hour, you just can't avoid it.
And look, here's Darrell Waltrip. We haven't talked about Darrell today. We did mention at the top of the show, he started way back, I think about 22nd today. But here he is battling for the lead.
Waltrip did not get to qualify on the first day. He drew third qualifying position, but was about 12th or 14th in line to go through inspection in the scales. And he did not make weight, and thus could not get on the line in time to qualify.
And he is passing the race leader on the outside. I think that's the first time that we've seen anybody pass on the outside today. And he's trying Labonte on the outside for the lead, and looks like he has him.
And that car's handling. It came off the corner, didn't bobble a bit, didn't fishtail, get the least bit sideways. And here off the tight turn number 4, Waltrip goes past to take the lead.
That's an amazing run, Mike. It really is. On green flag racing, there has... Oh, Labonte tries him back.
Well, Terry's car works way low at the bottom of the racetrack, but Darrell's car has a little bit of power, and Eddie Bierswell's car looks like it just lost about with the wall, and the left front tire suffered the most.
Left front tire looks like the wheel is fixing to fly off. The tire's fixing to come off the wheel or something.
Bierswell, the rookie contender from San Antonio, driving the D.K. Ulrich car.
We can see where he made contact with the guardrail on the right side of that car, where it bent up the sheet metal all the way down the right side of the vehicle.
Well, they've got to lift the car up just to get it on the jack. Tough break for the youngster from Texas. And with the caution out, Terry Labonte, Bill Elliott, Darrell Waltrip take this occasion to come onto pit road for service. There's Junior Johnson in white behind the car. And here's Waltrip's teammate, Neil Bonnet. Jeff Bodine had the hood up for repairs. That car has not been handling very well, and there's a report of some bent and broken pieces underneath. Crew is away, and so is Bodine. Dick Berggren is making his way to the Bodine pit, and we'll get a report on that extended stop as a track crew member goes out to pick up some debris.
Well, this is just what you don't want to have happen. This is the right front shock off Jeff Bodine's car. That's where it was broken. It only took them a few seconds to change that shock absorber, but Bodine has definitely got his work cut out for him now.
You know, Mike, we used to run 2 shock absorbers on each wheel when they were hydraulic, but that is a new gas shock absorber, and these cars only run 1 per wheel, and when one breaks, you have no shocks. That's why they had to change that shock absorber.
Sharp move on the restart by Ricky Rudd. Rudd, you'll remember, just made his pit stop a few laps ago under the green and would have been a lap down, so he lined up to the inside, but he beat race leader Waltrip on the green flag. So now Rudd, in car number 15, the Ford, is running right on the tail end of the lead lap. Waltrip in 11 is your race leader. Ron Bouchard there in 47, the Buick, is 1 lap off the pace. So Rudd made a terrific restart, and you don't catch Darrell napping that often.
No, you really don't. Ricky Rudd must have really been primed and cocked, ready to go when that green flag dropped. And I might add that Harry Gant, we talked about early in the show, he had the problem. He lost 2 laps on this last caution flag for debris. Harry got 1 of his laps back, so he now is only 1 lap down.
You see Ricky Rudd in car number 15 as Waltrip gets way loose, trying to catch him going into the corner. And here's Richard Petty, along with Terry Labonte. They've both made pit stops and have to come from the back of the pack. They are racing not Cale Yarborough, if you recognize that orange and white Hardee's paint scheme.
Caution flag is out, Mike.
But Alan Kulwicki. And the caution is for debris on the racetrack from some of the beat and bang. And you'll see Kulwicki's car number 32, left side of your screen. The Hardee's Thunderbird, campaigned out of Greenville, South Carolina. He's the ASA champion out of Wisconsin, making his first Winston Cup start. SETN's exclusive coverage of the Wrangler Sanfor-Set 400 at Richmond Fairgrounds Raceway. On the last caution flag, Ricky Rudd took the caution ahead of race leader Darrell Waltrip. So the pace car picked up Waltrip as the leader, and Rudd came around to the tail end of the field. When the rest of the field made pit stops, there was Rudd out in front when they took the green flag for the restart. So he goes from being almost a lap down to being the race leader.
I think that's incredible, Mike, to think that someone can do that, because he had pitted under the green flag, did not need to make a pit stop. His crew felt like he did not need to make a pit stop. He stayed out and is the race leader. Waltrip gets by Tommy Ellis. Tommy is a lap down. He's trying to get a lap back. Waltrip gets by him. He's got his eyes set on Ricky Rudd right now.
And Terry Labonte in the 44 car comes into play. He's the 3rd place machine. And here is Richard Petty, who earlier led a good portion of this race, along with Dale Earnhardt, who, to the surprise of most people here, has not yet led the race.
Because Dale Earnhardt has been the dominant car on the short tracks this year. Has 3 victories, all coming on short tracks.
Ricky Rudd in 15, the Ford, against Waltrip's number 11 Chevrolet, as they hustle off the corner at Fairgrounds Raceway. Waltrip now right on the back bumper of the Motorcraft Ford. Takes a bit of a look inside as Ron Bouchard and Tommy Ellis rough each other up a bit down in the corner. Waltrip has another look.
Waltrip changed tires, as we mentioned a moment ago. He pitted, he changed tires. Rudd did not. That really truly ought to give Darrell just a bit of an advantage in the first few laps, while Rudd while before his tires get hot, he should have a little bit of advantage with the cooler tires.
Labonte is just barely closing in on the front two. Bill Elliott is right there with him. And there Labonte's car at the top of the screen got just a bit loose coming off the corner. Boy, that fourth turn really tightens up on you in a hurry.
It sure does. Those cars are still sticking on the bottom of the racetrack very, very well. Normally at Richmond, these cars have a tendency to go up the racetrack this late in the race. But today they're staying on the bottom very well.
Trouble as Neil Bonnet catches a piece of the wall and does a bit of damage to the left side of his Chevrolet. For two teams that are fielded out of the same race shops, Junior Johnson, the cars of Darrell Waltrip, number 11, and Neil Bonnet, number 12, all season long have performed very, very differently.
Yes, they have. At some races, when Bonnet was the dominant car, Darrell did not seem to run well. When Darrell has been a dominant car, Neil does not seem to run well.
Bonnet won at Rockingham early in the season and beat Waltrip at North Wilkesboro, Junior Johnson's home racetrack. Those have been the bright spots in his season. He's third in the Winston Cup point chase, while the man in car number 11, Darrell Waltrip, Stock Car Racing's 5th all-time winner, sits the runner-up to Bill Elliott in the Winston Cup point chase.
And boy, does Waltrip need a victory here today. If he's going to do anything in the Winston Cup point standings, he needs a victory today, because Bill Elliott, he is the 4th car in the shot that we just saw, but he is a lap down. Waltrip is trying to win the race. If Darrell could win and Bill finish about 6th or 7th, it could be a big, big swing for Darrell Waltrip today.
Here's Richard and Kyle Petty bracketing Dale Earnhardt in the number 3 car, the Wrangler machine, trying to fight their way back toward the front of the pack. They're running 4th, 5th, and 6th. Well, to the surprise of many, Bill Elliott did not fade from the front of the field at the last short track race at Bristol, Tennessee, but finished a very credible 5th. Earnhardt won it over Richmond, Bonnet, and Waltrip, but Darrell gained only 5 points for the position and 5 points for leading the race at Bristol.
So Bristol was really a watch. I felt like that Darrell came away from Bristol very, very discouraged with his points battle, but today could be a different story.
And of course, 1 week ago at Darlington, South Carolina, you saw at the top of the show, Elliott was in victory lane for the 10th time this season, winning his $1 million, but adding his Winston Cup point lead as well.
$1 million. Can you imagine that? To win a race and get $1 million bonus. Here Darrell tries Rudd down on the inside. He has position on Ricky down in turn 1.
And he's going to make it work, because Rudd's car, you can see, is not working that well getting into the corner when he has to run the outside groove.
So well, they are side by side through 3 and 4, but Darrell coming off 4th on the bottom of the racetrack uses that to advantage and has the lead.
Well, both those cars are working very well on the inside of the racetrack. But when Rudd got caught up high and Darrell dove underneath him in the corner, it was just a matter of time before he popped out of the turn with the lead. Terry Labonte continues to run in the 3rd position. There you see Labonte's blue and white Chevrolet about 8 to 10 car lengths behind the race leaders. There's Kyle Petty, number 7, having passed Dale Earnhardt.
There's a blown engine down the front straightaway.
And into the wall goes Bobby Allison. Around goes Ron Bouchard, and Jeff Bodine's car ends up in the infield as well. Allison's car sits stuffed into the guardrail. There's Bodine pulling away. And Bouchard's car, freshly painted at the beginning of the day, looks like it spent about 10 years in taxi service in Detroit.
Bobby's car really is damaged, and we saw Ron Bouchard hit the right rear of Rusty Wallace's car as Rusty went by, and the right rear on Rusty's car is flat. So he was also involved in the accident. And there's somebody's bumper laying on the racetrack.
Back bumper might be from Allison's car.
Well, Ronnie Bouchard was involved in that Allison incident on turn 1. It looks like he got the worst of it. The whole nose of that car is well pushed in. This is the first of what will certainly be several pit stops to try to straighten his car out.
There's leg speed on pit road as well. Here's Jeff Bodine with a flat right rear, getting service from Harry Hyde and the Levi Garrett crew.
more problems. There's Bobby. He is walking. Looks like he's okay.
He took a pretty hard shot in the first turn wall himself, much the same spot where Morgan Shepherd went in to bring out the first caution. Not much left of that right rear off Bodine's car.
You know, Bobby did hit the fence extremely hard. That car. There comes a wheel off.
Speaking of tires, there goes one. Jimmy means this is a right rear. You don't snug up those lug nuts and that'll happen.
The wheel just simply fell off. That's right, one of the crewmen didn't. That tire weighs about 80 pounds. That thing could, he can't kick it over.
Well, looks like he's finally wrestled it to the ground. Killed it. Yep. And caution is out. There's Bobby Allison. He's okay. And we'll be right back. His mom fell, broke her hip and wrist, and just recuperating from surgery in the hospital. Fortunately, Bobby's okay, and he's with Dick.
Well, Bobby, it looked like a very hard hit.
Well, unfortunately, it was. One of those things.
Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm all right.
What caused the accident, Bobby?
I lost the motor coming down the front straightaway, and I slid my own oil.
You could sure use a break, couldn't you?
Sure could. Could use a little sunshine in our lives.
Well, Bobby Allison has been a champion at this track before, and for sure, he will be back to championship form again.
Short end of a tough day for Bobby Allison. Tires are perhaps the one biggest single factor in the handling equation on these racetracks. Earlier, Dick filed this.
When race drivers are talking about going fast, ordinarily, this is what they're talking about. The little patch of rubber that separates the race car from the speedway. The majority of chassis adjustments, suspension manipulations, are right here to make this piece of rubber meet the racetrack in the best possible way. Because tires are so critical, it takes a lot of them to service an automobile race. Generally, in fact, for a short track race like this, they'll bring as many as 800 to 1,000 tires. This trailer truck will go home empty at the end of this event. Now, the racers aren't going to wear out these 1,000 tires. What they're basically going to do is heat them up real good on the race car and pretty much harden them up as a result of the heating. The tires are taken off and replaced with brand new ones for speed's sake. You don't have to worry about that on the highway, but on the racetrack, a higher tire is not the fast way around. Changing all those tires is enough to keep 6 men working full-time 4 days every weekend the race cars run. They put them on, take them off, work them around so the teams will have exactly the right combination of tires that they want. They all look the same, but in fact, in Grand National racing at least, there's a separate compound, a softer tire that's used on the left side of the car than the right side of the car. In fact, the circumference of the tires is different between the right side and the left side, so as to help the car run through the corners better. Each tire is carefully balanced in addition to being blown up to the proper air temperature. Tires, in fact, are so important, the mechanics measure just about every characteristic of them. This is the right rear tire from car 44, just to make sure there's no mistaking. They even paint the number of the car right here on the wheel. Mechanics have run a tape measure around this tire to measure its circumference. It is 87 1/4 inches. That matches with another rear tire. And that tire is going to be in set 4. Set 1, 2, 3, and that means it's set 4. This tire, because it's a right side tire, is a D1116 compound. That determines whether the tire is hard or soft or what gradation it has. Indeed, tires are extremely critical in the handling of any race car. What does all this racing have to do with the American highway? Plenty. Race tire engineers say that what they learn on the speedway on Sunday helps them develop a better tire for the highway on Monday. In fact, putting a tire to the ultimate test is certainly a very good way to develop the best there can be.
Now let's rejoin Dick live with Bud Moore and Ricky Rudd's picked.
Well, Bud Moore, it seems as if every time your team comes to Richmond Speedway, you're right up front. Are you happy with the way the car is running now?
Well, the car's running real well right now. We're out front, and we got on fresh tires, and we hope we'll have to make one more stop, but I think everybody else will. But we're looking in fine shape right now.
How hot does Ricky say it is in the car?
He said it must be 140 degrees. He said it's really hot in there. He's hollering for water and a cold towel every time he stops.
That's Bud Moore, crew chief for Ricky Rudd, who's currently leading.
We're getting set to go back under the green flag here at Richmond Fairgrounds Raceway. On the outside lane, Ricky Rudd, the race leader, Terry Labonte in second, Darrell Waltrip in third, Dale Earnhardt in fourth. On the inside, Harry Gant, who is a lap down, is going to try to get that lap back on the restart to no avail.
Harry Harry did not get a good jump on Ricky Rudd, but car has been running well. He's only a lap down. He's going to put forth every effort he can to get by Rudd, and if the caution does come out, make up that other lap and be in the same lap as the leader.
Kyle Petty, car number 7, moves up on the inside of the second-place car. Terry Labonte in 44. Then Waltrip and Earnhardt shuffle back for the 3rd spot. Way back in the pack is Richard Petty, who made a late pit stop just prior to the drop of the green flag.
I think that Richard went in to top off the fuel tank, Mike. He felt like that if he went in and put some gas in the car, he could go all the way without stopping again in case this race were to go green flag. And that's why he stopped. Yes, Harry is inside Ricky, and he is by him right now. If he could just stay there, he'll be back in the same lap as the leader.
Harry Gant takes him down at turn number 3, and Kyle Petty gets loose and just hangs on to it right in front of Waltrip. That lets Labonte underneath Waltrip to try and hang on to 2nd spot.
Wow, that was close. I thought Kyle had lost that car down turn 3.
And as it happened, Harry Gant got around Ricky Rudd on the inside, and for the 2nd time today, when Rudd's car has been forced to the outside of the racetrack, it has not worked all that well.
No, just on the bottom does he get around the racetrack very well.
There's Kyle Petty just ahead of Terry Labonte. Labonte's the 3rd-place car, and Kyle is a lap down. And Gant begins to pull away from Ricky Rudd. Gant reeled off 4 second-place finishes in a row in midseason. He's been the perennial bridesmaid of NASCAR Winston Cup racing, but he drove to victory lane at Martinsville earlier in the season. Here's Earnhardt, Tim Richmond, and Lake Speed doing a little bump and run, or framming and bamming, as Earnhardt likes to call it, but he's not involved in it right now. It's the 2 Pontiacs of Richmond on the inside and Lake Speed on the outside.
Looks like Richmond has the position. Yes, he gets by Lake and sets his eyes on Dale Earnhardt.
Back at the front of the field, Gant maintains a 1-car length advantage on the race leader, Ricky Rudd.
You know, it's a shame that Harry Gant could not. It's a shame that he had that problem early on in the race, because the way that car has been running today, he could have led many, many laps of this race.
Gant's car worked well, as it did a week ago at Darlington, South Carolina. Only to end up in the garage.
Kyle Petty's coming up on Rudd. He's not driving away. I thought maybe Ricky would get away from him, but Kyle has gained on him.
No, Rudd's car is not performing as well now as it did early in the race. This is his home racetrack. He and his wife Linda, both natives of Chesapeake, Virginia, as we take a look at Harry Gant's car. And there's Richard Petty trying to move past Greg Sachs, who is a lap or more down. Buddy Baker is right there with Richard, and Buddy is 2 laps off the pace. And Richard just sticks the nose underneath Greg Sachs, try and move him over a bit. So far, it hasn't worked.
Richard gave him a little shot going to the 3rd corner and say, look, I need to get by because you're holding up a whole line of cars, which it looks like Greg Sachs is holding up a line of cars.
Sachs has already lost most of the nose of his car, and Richard may take a bite out of the tail as well. He'll rough him up a little more and then finally gets to the inside. Baker follows suit. There's Phil Parsons and Neil Bonnet. And Richard breaks free of lap traffic. At the Richmond Fairgrounds, Ricky Rudd is the race leader, number 15, the Ford. Right behind him, here comes Darrell Waltrip up the inside in the number 11 Chevrolet.
There's some traffic in front of him. That's Phil Parsons, my younger brother, in front. He probably is going to get Darrell trapped. Ricky's going to trap Darrell in behind him. I don't know if he's going to be able to or not. No, he can't.
Phil pulls way to the inside, and that gives Waltrip all the room he needs. See if Rudd can hold him off, but Ricky's car has just not worked that well at the top of the racetrack.
Works well on the bottom, but you're right, Mike. When he gets on top, he's got big problems.
And Waltrip will take the lead. Darrell, who started back in 22nd position, puts his car out front. There's his crew chief, Jeff Hammond, with Darrell Andrews. Jeff ought to look a little happier than that. Oh, Eddie Bierswaw catches the turn 1 wall right where Bobby Allison and Morgan Shepherd got up before him. And he took a chunk out of it.
Boy, he really hit that fence hard, didn't he? Looks like the right front tire ran over a piece of debris and cut it or something and went straight in the wall. That is a sinking feeling, Mike. When you see the wall coming, there's nothing you can do. About 4 or 5 years ago, I broke a water pump going in turn 1, but the car turned around and backed in the wall, and I think that's the hardest I ever hit anything. But fortunately, I hit it backwards, so I had the seat behind me to help support me. Eddie had nothing but the seat belts holding him in the car. But as we can see, the seat belts did their job and held him in the car very well.
And the right front of the car took the brunt of the damage. We're under caution. Let's go to pit road.
Here's the leader in the pits for what could well be his final pit stop. The fuel he takes on now should take him all the way. Their choice, right side tires. Almost everybody probably will take on right side tires. A good quick pit stop by Waltrip, and he is the first out on pit road.
Last night here in the Fairgrounds, virtually all of the Winston Cup drivers participated in a benefit fundraiser for former sportsman champion Butch Lindley, injured in a racing crash down in Florida in April. And as Eddie Bierswell walks away from his race car, Charlie Harville filed a report in a very warm Commonwealth building last evening.
Ned, what is your reason for being here today?
Like all the other drivers, Charlotte, trying to help as much as we can Butch Lindley, who was such a great competitor in the sport of auto racing and had the unfortunate situation of being in that accident. And boy, I tell you, it's been a great loss to the sport, the fact that he hasn't been around, and we all hope and pray that someday that he'll snap out of it and be back with us on the racetrack.
Butch Lindley was the type guy that had the friends in racing, and when the time is needed for some help, that they all come out like this.
Tim Richmond is here also doing his part to help Butch Lindley. Tim, it's nice of you to be here.
It's, you know, unfortunately we're here because of why we're here, but it's for a good cause. Unfortunately, it did have to happen, and we're just here, and all the prayers go out to Butch, and we just hope this helps him recover to his full strength.
Tommy Ellis is a man who raced against Butch Lindley on many occasions, and Tommy, I know that's one of the reasons you're here.
Absolutely. We're trying to raise money for Butch Lindley, his family, and to help them through this troubled time that they're going through, and we'll do anything that we can, you know, to help his family. And Butch Lindley probably was my greatest friend, racing friend that I've ever had that I competed against.
Richard Petty, it's a fine gesture on your part to be here to help Butch Lindley.
Well, you know, it's a situation that, you know, Butch is in bad shape, and, you know, they do the same thing for us. That's the situation, and, you know, we're just glad that the people turned out to be able to make something out of it. You know, we didn't want to come here and be by ourselves, but the people have turned out and really donated, and it's going to be a super good operation for them.
This evening for Butch Lindley was a project which was first visualized by car builder Emmanuel Zervakis, who built many of the cars in which Butch Lindley raced over the years. Emmanuel and his wife, they got together with Paul and Billy Sawyer of Richmond Fairgrounds Raceway, and this is the result. Thousands of fans turning out to help one of NASCAR's own, Butch Lindley.
They raised thousands of dollars in donations and an auction of racing items, but funds are still urgently needed. If you'd like to participate, here's the address and the phone number. We encourage your support. Back under the green flag at Richmond Fairgrounds Raceway, and this time Dale Earnhardt's the man putting the pressure on Darrell Waltrip for the lead.
Now this looks more like the short track racing we've been seeing all year. Earnhardt trying to pass somebody for the lead. He's alongside Darrell Waltrip coming off turn 4.
That's been the way to pass today. Get on the inside of the race leader, force him up into the high groove where it's a little slick, snatch the lead away.
And look, Earnhardt just going away from Darrell right now.
They lap past J.D. McDuffie. Labonte's the third-place car. Rudd is fourth, and Richard Petty has climbed back up into the pack into fifth spot. Harry Gantz recovered to take sixth, and
Mike,
Kyle Petty
is coming off the second corner right in front of the leaders.
James Hilton comes all the way around. In the McCord Gasket Chevrolet, he's in relief of Lenny Pond, one of two drivers to climb out of a car in this event. Clark Dwyer, the Colorado driver, got out of his machine earlier, and Morgan Shepherd, who brought up the first caution with his crash, climbed in to replace him. Here's the leaders on pit road.
Junior Johnson, that's Junior in the white uniform. He's leaning inside Darrell's car. He is adjusting the chassis on the car, changing the right side tires.
There's probably nobody better in stock car racing than this team at making a car work in the late stages of the race. Oops! Almost caught a crewman between Waltrip and Bonnet's cars as Darrell had to back up to get out of his pit stall.
Oh, Harry Gant almost spun. Buddy Arrington went up almost into the wall.
Everybody takes evasive action as the rush is to get off pit road and back in line behind the caution car. Waltrip's pit stop a moment ago. There's Jeff Hammond, the crew chief, and the jackman, as Waltrip had to back up, bump into Neil Bonnet's car to get out of his pit stall and sends the crew members flying. I've heard of getting knocked out of bounds, but
I don't know if Darrell hit him or the fellow just jumped out of the way.
No, I don't think he hit him, but might have had he not headed for the guardrail head first.
Boy, he dove out of the way.
And the lights out atop the pace car. We're set to go back to racing, and this may be the last pit stop of the day. Tim Richmond's lined up on the inside. He's a couple of laps down. Terry Labonte's the race leader. He's got Harry Gant, Darrell Waltrip, Richard Petty, and Dale Earnhardt in tow. Ricky Rudd's the sixth-place car. Out of turn 2, up the back straightaway. And again, the field quickly gets single file as they lap past Ken Schrader's car, driving for hometowner Junie Donlevy.
There isn't much time to go, and Labonte got a good jump on the field.
Here comes Gant under Richmond, working against the lap car. Gant, Waltrip go to the inside. Petty and Earnhardt to follow. Harry Gant in 33, Darrell Waltrip in 11. And Tim Richmond hung out to dry on the outside. Ooh, Waltrip came up and almost got a bite out of Gant's rear quarter panel.
Almost did. Waltrip's car is sticking on the bottom of the racetrack so very well. He just passed Harry Gant going through turn 1 with ease.
3 wide going into the corner. Something's got to give, and it will be Earnhardt. Nice move by Ricky Rudd to get underneath Earnhardt as Earnhardt lapped underneath Tim Richmond.
That was a good move. A very chancy move, but it worked for Ricky Rudd today.
So the Ford is now 4th in line, behind 2 Chevrolets and a Pontiac, and 2 Chevrolets trailing of the 6 cars on the lead lap.
Harry Gant starting to burn that right rear tire, just a little bit of smoke coming off of it. That's usually a bad sign.
All that scrambling for second spot has given Terry Labonte a lead of almost half a straightaway. Here's Waltrip in second, then Gant, Petty, Rudd, and Earnhardt.
Richard Petty was extremely strong early in the race. We didn't hear too much from him in the middle of the race, but now with just a few laps to go, he is in position to win this thing.
Petty looks to the inside on Harry Gant. Nothing that time by. And Petty drops the nose of his car low under the bumper of Harry Gant. Labonte just continues to extend his lead.
Labonte has a good lead. I don't know if Darrell can catch him or not.
Terry Labonte's about 3 seconds ahead of Waltrip. Here's 3rd place on back. Gant, Petty, Rudd, and Earnhardt. Something's going to break loose in this group before it's over. You can count on it.
Richard Petty's car is sticking on the bottom of the racetrack. He is, I think, probably has a faster car than Harry Gant. But being able to outrun him and get and past him is 2 different things.
And Earnhardt is way at the back of the pack, 6th place, last car on the lead lap. Here's Petty to the inside of Gant again, and Harry will shut him off. Rudd comes up the outside.
Richard took a look.
And looked like Earnhardt got a little piece of Ricky Rudd. Here comes Petty. Slices his way up alongside Harry Gant, and Earnhardt gets under Rudd at the same time. 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th spots, all scrambling. And when they straighten out single file, Petty's taken 3rd. Gant drops back to 4th, and Earnhardt moves up to 5th with Ricky Rudd 6th. Labonte leads Darrell Waltrip. Labonte's 3-second lead has all but been erased, and Waltrip, it's almost like he can smell the checkered flags, Benny.
And he is there. His car is handling well. He's on the bottom of the racetrack, and we can almost feel the desire that he has to win, Mike.
Waltrip has been to victory lane only once this season in the Coca-Cola World 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Labonte won the next week at Riverside, California, and in a season dominated by Bill Elliott's 10 superspeedway wins. Hard to believe that these two have just 2 victories between them, but that could change today. As with less than 10 laps to go, Waltrip's banging on the door, and he wants by. Labonte uses Ron Bouchard's car as a pick on the outside, and Waltrip has to fall in line, single file.
Waltrip had a vision of getting by. I thought he was going by, but Bouchard's car was out there. I think that Darrell was just a little bit afraid that he would run the back of him if he pushed Labonte up any higher.
Richard Petty's the 3rd place car. Dale Earnhardt now sits in 4th, and Ricky Rudd. 7 laps to go as they flash by the start finish.
It's amazing that Darrell was able to catch Labonte because he had such a lead on 3-4 seconds just a few laps ago. It seems like it was only a couple of laps ago. It's probably 20 laps ago, but it seems like it was such a short period of time ago.
Well, as we said before, there's no one better than Junior Johnson when it comes to getting the car set up for a late race run to the checkered flag. Now here's Dave Marcus, and Labonte has to hesitate, trying to figure out how to get past Marcus, and it looked like Waltrip roughed them both up just a little as he squeezes past.
Yes, 3 abreast going in turn 3.
You don't do that here.
No, you don't do that, and Labonte had no choice but back off and let Darrell have the position. Unfortunately, that was for the lead, and there's only 5 laps to go.
Tire marks are all up and down both sides of Waltrip Chevrolet. Labonte, showing the scars of the scuffle as well, is now the 2nd place car. He's got less than a handful of laps to try to put one last move on Waltrip and retake the lead as time runs out.
If Darrell Waltrip should go ahead and win this race, he's going to cut a pretty healthy margin off Bill Elliott's point lead today. Elliott has not had a good day. He ran the early part of the race. He did not run that badly, but as the race wore on, he has drifted back. He's now 2 or 3 laps off the pace.
Here's a guy who's had a great race today. Richard Petty, the best he's run on a short track in 4 years rather, and he's the 3rd place car.
And he is running right now as fast as Darrell Waltrip and Terry Labonte. If Richard could get there, he could contest these fellows for the victory today.
There's Petty's car moving up on Dave Marcus. He's in 3rd. Earnhardt is 4th. 2 laps to go. Waltrip takes it inside of Buddy Baker's Bullfrog Knits Oldsmobile. Labonte is there. He's right on the back bumper, but as he pulls upside, Waltrip is right there to come up and cover the high groove.
He saw Labonte back there, and he said, whoops, I better get up and close this hole because he may try to go by.
White flag. 1 lap to go. Labonte is now a car length back of Waltrip, whose car is glued to the bottom of the racetrack.
It looks like the race traffic's far enough ahead of Darrell that it's not going to be come into play before he can get the checkered flag.
Off turn 4 for the final time. Darrell Waltrip comes down the front straightaway. Harold Kinder drops the checkered flag, and Waltrip scores his 2nd victory of the season. Labonte finishes 2nd. Petty is 3rd. Earnhardt is 4th. And it's amazing to think that we get all the way to September before Darrell Waltrip gets his first short track win.
Here's a replay of the pass for the lead a moment ago when Darrell used Dave Marcus, the slower car, to get inside Terry Labonte down in turn 1 and 2. And Labonte had no choice. He just could not go into 3rd corner 3 abreast.
Well, he had to lift the throttle there for Marcus. It looked like Marcus was coming up the groove, and that momentary lapse of throttle kept Terry Labonte out of victory lane, and Darrell Waltrip is in it.
Well, Mike, one thing for sure, I think the fans got their money's worth today, didn't they?
Well, that's what short track racing's all about, Benny. And Dick Bergeron will greet our winner in victory lane.
Right in victory lane, started all the way back in 22nd to victory. What did you do to this race car to get so much speed out of it today, Darrell?
Well, when you start back like that, you work hard. And, you know, the Lord smiles on you in a lot of ways. And I guess we've started on the pole here the last several times and hadn't won that much. So I think it was just a deal where we started way back. We knew we had our work cut out for us. We worked hard, and it paid off.
Now, did you ever think that it would be mid-September 1985 before the short track specialty team at Junior Johnson would be in a short track victory lane?
Well, there's only been 4, so that's not too bad. You know, without Nashville on the schedule, it cuts down on the races that we run on short track. So we've had some bad luck, and we'll come back. We're tough. the hotter and the slicker it gets, the better we get.
Darrell Waltrip, happy, tired, in victory lane here in the Wrangler 400.
Well, Benny, it so often happens on a short track, traffic, running in traffic is often the key to winning or losing, and it was again in the closing laps today.
Exactly right. Here we're seeing it one more time. Terry Labonte goes in turn one. He has to move up the racetrack to lap Dave Marcus. Marcus gets a good jump down on the inside. Waltrip uses that advantage to pull up alongside Labonte. When he gets to the back straightaway, Dave Marcus, as he should, pulls over and gives Darrell Waltrip racing room. He's able to pass Labonte.
3 wide down that straightaway, and Waltrip made a hole where there wasn't one.
Dick Bergeron is with the second place finisher, Terry Labonte.
Terry Labonte, second's not bad. I know you would have rather run first, but still it was a good, strong finish, the first in a while.
Well, it was. You know, I guess it's the first race we finished since the race in Riverside back in June without something going wrong. So we're real pleased to run as good as we did. And, you know, the Piedmont Airlines crew just did a fantastic job, and the car ran super all day. And I think we're kind of looking forward to the rest of the short tracks now.
Well, you look very cool. You look calm and relaxed after that very hard race. Was it a physical event?
Not really. You know, this racetrack is really not a very tiring racetrack. It was awful hot in the cars, but other than that, it wasn't too bad.
7 races remain in the chase for the Winston Cup in 1985, and Darrell Waltrip's win at Richmond here today will certainly boost his chances to catch Bill Elliott.
Yes, I think he probably is going to gain somewhere around 50, 60 points, and that's going to put him within striking distance of Elliott.
So it's on to Martinsville, Virginia for SETN. That'll be our next race, the Goodies 500. Check your local listing for time and stations. As for Charlie Harville, Dick Bergeron, and Benny Parsons, this is Mike Joy congratulating Darrell Waltrip on his Wrangler Sanfor-Set 400 victory. The Wrangler Sanfor-Set 400 has been brought to you by Goodyear, makers of the high-performance radio, the Eagle, and by Alugard. Look for and buy brands containing the Alugard premium quality antifreeze formula. And by Exxon, quality you can count on. Special ground transportation for SETN provided by Choo Choo Customs Incorporated. The executive producer of SETN is Jim Wigglesworth. Operations Director John R. Lewis.